floor pops I am using to put down in the laundry. I did my laundry makeover video last week and you will have seen the floor pops. I wanted something to match these tiles that I'd painted there in the bathroom and toilet a few years ago. Something to match. Obviously they're not going to be exactly the same, but the tone of them sort of match. They're both sort of a grey colour, so they'll fit in quite well with those. Originally I did think of putting floor pops in the bathroom. It just would have been too wet, but there are a lot of different designs you can choose from and were sort of tough to choose. Also going through and reading the reviews on the website too, and people upload pictures on what theirs have looked like. Hi, it's Danny here from Our Humble Home DIY, and today as promised I'm doing a video on me installing my floor pops or floor tiles. I bought these from Amazon and they were $25 something for a box of 10. The tiles are 30 by 30 centimeters each, so I wasn't sure exactly how many I needed, but on the back of the packet and actually on the website I think too, they sort of give you an idea of what you need. They would only let me order 5 boxes for some reason though, and I'm not sure whether that's all they had in stock or whether it's because it was free postage and they didn't sort of allow me to order any more. But I'm thinking at the time when I ordered the 5 boxes, I'm thinking this may not be enough, but if worst comes to the worst, I can always order some more. So this is what they looked like. They said they were a semi-gloss, and I was a little bit worried because I definitely didn't want them to be glossy, really, but I was pleased with that. They were more like a matte sort of sheen. So the first step was to actually clean the tiles. Now, if you didn't see last week's video, this is what my tiles were like. When I got to this point, I'd finished painting and fixing up so much on the walls, the tub, backsplash, the tiles, the doors, everything. And this was the last piece of the puzzle. It was the floor, and even though I'd done so much to the rest of the room, it still looked really bad because the floor was so bad. And these tiles had been in like we've never had them replaced in our house. It's over 30 years old, so not only are they sort of old-fashioned looking, they are worn, and I did get a bit of paint on them when I was doing up the walls, but only because I knew that they were going to be covered up. So I'm just making a paper template the size of the tile because I knew that there would be parts where I would have to make like a pattern and actually cut the tile to fit around the washing machine, the tub, even the walls if the tiles didn't fit perfectly. And so I just made that out of some brown wrapping paper. You could use any paper, I guess, it doesn't really matter. So the very first tile I did have to make a little cut out of because I couldn't line it up straight because of the trim. It was the tiniest cut, but it made a big difference. They say to start in the middle of the room and work your way outwards. This was such a tiny space, I just started at the edge. They also say to make sure you have a straight line, so get a level maybe and do that. But because these tiles were already in place, I just sort of lined them up with the tile and the wall, and I thought, well, that's going to have to be straight because the tiles are straight. And I got my rolling pin out from the kitchen, and I thought this might be good to roll the tile down and to help it adhere to the tiles. I was I was excited to do this, but I was also like hesitant because I wasn't really sure exactly how they would turn out, how they would turn out with me laying them, what the quality would be. Also, there was reviews, a lot of reviews, and especially on the website, also people doing YouTube videos as well, saying that they don't stick properly and that they can lift. I actually bought some hard as nails glue, and I was going to glue each one down on, just to make sure, but I'm thinking I don't really want to do that, because if I ever did have to pull them up, that is going to be so hard, and it's just going to be impossible to clean them if ever I sort of changed my mind. So I just sort of went on and I stuck them down. I thought they have to be relatively sticky, so I just thought I'll stick them down as they are, and if any lift or don't stick properly, then I can just sort of figure out what I'm going to do there. Also, another issue, you see me rotating them, is you have to figure out which pattern matches, because not every time you put the tile down it's going to match, and it could be misaligned, and I sort of just turned it around to match. Also, I'd sort of forgotten that there was a drain there, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? David said, what are you going to do about the drain? You can't really tile over that. And I thought, yeah, I'm just going to tile over it. It's only a tiny drain. We've never had any flooding or anything, so fingers crossed everything will be okay. If worst comes to the worst, I know which tile it is, and I can always take it up and cut out a piece for the drain, but I think it should be okay. Sort of see here what I mean about matching the pattern and rotating it. Eventually you can find the right side that will go. In saying that though, looking back, there were pieces that weren't matched and aligned. Looking at the whole of the floor though, you don't even notice this because it's such a busy pattern. I found when it came to cutting out the pattern and figuring how to cut the tiles, instead of sort of drawing a line, it was easy just to sort of bend the paper down, and you could cut then where it's actually where you see the crease, and I just found that easier to do. And on the back of the packet it said to use, your rulers and your knives and all that sort of thing. And I suggest you do that, although I didn't. I just mainly used scissors, and I just sort of freehand drew from the pattern. There was one place where I had to use the Stanley knife, and that's sort of coming up, and I just to adjust so this actually fit in properly, this particular tile. But I really just used scissors, and I found that was all good. So I just want to show you here where the finger's pointing that lines up, but on the other side here, it wasn't lining up too. So, you could have one side that lined up, but the other was a bit mismatched. I really don't know whether there was much you could really do about that. And like I said before, even though bits didn't completely match in places, it really isn't noticeable. The tiles are really quite pliable and easy to cut, and that was no problem at all, cutting around the walls and different edges. I'm using a lint roller actually. I thought I might use a lint roller because even though I cleaned the floor to the best that I could, it really, there's still dust and stuff and little bits and pieces on there. So I just used the lint roller, and I think that worked. That just got off any excess dust and dirt. And that's important with these tiles to help them stick properly as well. I'll come back to the door and I will start on the little fiddly bits. So that will be, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I reckon I'll have enough because I've got another 2 packets almost left. So this was the template for that side, and it just so happens that if I flip it over, this will be the template for this side too. Pretty much, yeah, looks pretty good. So I'll just use that to cut out this next piece. So it was a pretty straight run from the door up to the end of the wall, a few little cuts. The main cut was around the wardrobe, I guess. Though once I had to go back and fill in the gaps, there were a lot of cuts I had to make. This was really no problem at all, I found, and really satisfying to do. It's satisfying to cut it out and then slip it in place and see that it fits perfectly. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed doing this. It took me the whole day, but it was like I just did it in bits and pieces and came back to it. And yeah, I couldn't believe it actually, how well it was all coming together. It was sort of a shame that I had to cut off these little pieces at the end. I was considering starting down this end and putting a whole piece sort of up to the against the door, but then I would have had to have cut every tile along the wall, and I thought that's sort of no good. And I just thought I'll follow the way that they've actually put the original tiles in, and they had put a join there. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, a really big jigsaw puzzle, a repetitive jigsaw puzzle. So I just finished the laying it down. Pretty much I'm cutting everything, all the little bits and pieces and nooks and crannies down at the edge. There at the edge I had to cut little bits there, and funnily enough I had enough to do all under here as well. I've just put a box down there because it was coming up a little bit. I thought the weight of it might help it stick. Doesn't really matter under there anyway. And I actually have 5 sheets left over, 5 squares, so that will come in handy if anything gets damaged. But I was certain that I was not going to have enough, but yeah, I can't believe it. Looks so pretty. And this part here, you may remember what it was like. It was so bad and damaged, the wall was so damaged. It's not perfect, but I fixed up the tiles. I painted them just with the wall paint, but I did put a adhesive primer on, so it should be all good. So tomorrow I will do all the caulking around the edges. So the final step was to actually put in the caulking, and I don't think this is necessary, although probably in wet areas I'd recommend it. I put it in to neaten the edges up and to just finish the whole look off, and that is the silicone that I used. It was just a Monarch. It was a small tube from Bunnings. I actually used this one around the sink and tub as well, and the sticky tiles. And I always use masking tape. I normally put it on both edges, like the wall and the floor. I didn't this time because I thought that the tiles were completely white anyway. If it gets a bit misaligned or not very neat, you're not going to notice it. Definitely on the floor though, because it's a darker color, and you're going to notice if it's not very straight or if it gets a bit messy. And this always gives a really nice, neat and even finish. So I paid $125 for these stick-on tiles. They took probably about a week to come once I'd ordered them. It was free delivery, so I didn't have to pay for delivery. It took me 1 day to lay them. The next day I did the caulking, and you can see the difference that they've actually made to this room. It's unbelievable. I've always wanted to try these, and this was a perfect room to actually use them on. I vacuum over them. They're also easily swept, and you can mop over them as well. They don't show up marks very easily, and I just think they're so pretty. So this is the end result, and you can see, people who watched my previous laundry video, the difference this here is to what it once was. So if you recall, I was saying that some people were saying that the tiles can lift or not stick properly. That was the only place where they did not stick down properly. Just that one tile sort of at the entryway there. Everything else was all good. It was perfect. A video I watched, someone saying their tiles didn't stick, and someone commented and say what they did was to use a hairdryer and to actually put it on a high heat setting and to heat up the glue and then stick your tiles down. I didn't do this, but I was thinking maybe if I actually did use a hairdryer to heat up the glue here, that it actually might help to stick the tile down. It seemed to help. Straight away after I'd done it, I pushed it down and it did stick. The next day though, I came out after I'd taken the heavy dishwashing liquid pots off. It sort of hadn't stuck, it popped up. And what I did use was just the normal cheap $2 PVA glue I bought from Kmart, put it underneath, left that on for 24 hours and that stuck it down. So that was all good. So here is the original floor. Not too good. And this is my beautiful floor. My beautiful floor now that I absolutely love, and we've got a lot of compliments on it. It's been down for a month or two now and just love it as much as I ever did. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you in next week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was helpful to you. Have a great week and bye for now. Knock your socks off makeovers, but I am fixing up a lot of things and I'm showing you what I do. And at the moment here I am taking off the wallpaper. I put on some random wallpaper there once, and to take it off I just spray with water, and you will not believe how easy wallpaper is to remove, the pasted wallpaper.